Before we get to our second reading, I have to admit that there are 3 verses in here that I almost cut out from the middle. This is not something that is typically considered good practice certainly not within a Presbyterian church, to say, I'm going to read 1 verse and then skip 3 and then pick it back up. That we would typically say that's a no-no. But I found them to be kind of distracting and off the point, and I didn't really want to say something because they can be read as anti-Semitic. And I decided to leave them in and to speak to you about them beforehand, because actually I think they're kind of proving one of my whole points about this sermon, which is that the Bible can be kind of complicated. And it can be hard to read just at face value. And so when we get these sentences in the middle, it's talking about Moses and about how Moses wore a veil over his face. And it speaks of that veil as if this is the reason why the Jews did not receive Christ, is because they had this veil on and their hearts were hardened. And what I want to say is that Paul, of course, was writing this living in a very different time. Paul also was himself a Jewish man. So he speaks with it with a different context. But also to say that all of us can have hardened hearts. And all of us wear a veil when we come to the word of the Lord. There is something about our human understanding that makes it difficult to know to see God's full glory and to really understand exactly what God is trying to reveal. And so we are really no different than those that Paul speaks of here in 2 Corinthians. Sometimes we wear a veil. Sometimes our hearts are hardened. And that I also want to say that as Presbyterians, we believe that the covenant that our Jewish brothers and sisters, our Jewish family have made with the Lord is a valid covenant, and is a whole covenant, and is a true covenant. And we do not believe that our covenant negates their covenant in any way. We believe that we are all part of the family of God. So I'm going to go ahead and start then. This is 2 Corinthians. This is 3:12 through the end of the chapter. Since then we have such a hope, we act with great boldness, not like Moses, who put a veil over his face to keep the people of Israel from gazing at the end of the glory that was being set aside. But their minds were hardened. Indeed, to this very day, when they hear the reading of the Old Covenant, that same veil is still there, since only Christ set it aside. Indeed, to this very day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their minds. But when one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is Spirit. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And all of us, with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the same image, from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, the Spirit. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
One of my favorite passages from Scripture is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians in chapter 13, where he again goes back to this image of a mirror. And he says, "For now we see as through a mirror dimly, but then we shall see face to face. For now I see only in part, but then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known." I love this passage because it speaks of the sheer power, the awesome mystery, and the might of God, which is just so far beyond our human imagining that we can't even handle it. In fact, we understand that these, our earthly bodies, quite literally cannot handle being in the full presence of God's glory. And that to see God can mean instant death. Or maybe one might say, to see God, you are instantly consumed into the fullness of God's glory. into the fullness of life. And so, as Paul uses this analogy, he says it's like as we see as through a mirror, dimly. And when I imagine this mirror, I'm not picturing our perfect, well-engineered, shiny, reflective panes of today, right? That's probably not the kind of mirror that Paul ever got to look into. It's those kind of smoky, pitted glass panes of yesteryear, right? Where you'd be peering, straining to see just the tiniest peak, the faint outline of what is God, what God is truly like. Through the Bible, our holy words, and through this holy music, and through this holy place. I long for the day when we can see God face to face. And as much as I love the mystery and might of God, I get a little bit frustrated by it too. I get frustrated with the Bible sometimes, and its contradictions, and its violence, and its patriarchy, and its pain. I get frustrated with the church sometimes. Oh, I love the church. I love the church. And when I say church, I mean, church big C, all of us, not faith Presbyterians specifically. But y'all, the church. We struggle, right? To get it right sometimes. I get frustrated with the church, and its contradictions, and its violence, and its patriarchy, and its pain. I get frustrated with prayer sometimes. And not so much its violence and pain, but its contradictions. Right? We hear that we're supposed to ask for what we need, but then we don't, and we shall receive, but then we don't receive. And so often in prayer, God seems silent. And it's frustrating. And it's hard. And it feels like I'm just peering through a mirror, just trying so hard to see some of that glory. And catching it, maybe a little. But I wish that I could just know fully, even as I am fully known. Amen?
Amen.
And yet Paul reminds us here is that even through these imperfect and sometimes frustrated, these sacred smoke and mirrors, we can catch a glimpse of God's glory. You know what I'm talking about, or you wouldn't be here, right? That moment when you hear a scripture passage, and even through the murmur of translation and the cacophony of context, you hear that word of truth. It speaks to you. Or when you try to pray and the words just won't come. But then you take a deep breath and you get a sense that God knows what you can't seem to say. When a particular turn of phrase in the liturgy just sends you tripping down that rabbit trail of wonder and thoughtfulness and challenge. When the words of the hymn just move you to tears. When we look at one another in our closing circle and every eye is a mirror reflecting God's glory into the world. And so we keep coming back to the stories that speak God's truth in ours. And we keep coming back to these communities that challenge and comfort us and nurture us in our faith. We read and we sing, and we pray and we study. We bless and we laugh and we cry. We eat and we drink. Not tiny little crumbfuls of God's grace, but just big handfuls of Jesus. Right? And gallons of glory. Because with every moment that we spend in this hazy, hard holiness, the Spirit transforms us. Paul says from one degree to another. Right? But I like to think of it just inch by inch, week by week. Breath by breath, minute by minute, degree by degree, molecule by molecule, cell by cell, the Spirit transforms us into more radiant beacons of God's glory. That's our goal, to reflect God's glory into the world, to shine like the sun, to be so radiant with God's love